told your friend you're not okay, and tell me what's wrong and why you never said you felt that way. And guess you're trying to stay strong and fake a smile until I look away. But I've known you too long, it hurts.
So what's up, guys? I'm Brian. Welcome to my shop. And in today's video, we're going to be reviewing the Xtool D1 desktop laser engraver by Makeblock. So a couple things before we begin. First, I'm not going to do an unboxing. Let me just say that this thing came very well packaged. Xtool did a great job. This thing will arrive to you undamaged. Secondly, this is not going to be a tutorial on how to assemble this machine. That is all covered in the manual. Xtool also has a video online on their website, and that you can follow that step by step and get this thing assembled in about 45 minutes. So what we will cover in this video are the key features of the Xtool D1. This is a special machine compared to other lasers out there. This has some pretty unique features that I think you're gonna like. I know I do. We're also gonna talk about the specifications as far as the working envelope you have, the materials you can engrave, the materials you can cut. We'll also go over the basic operation of the software. The software is LaserBox Basic. It comes with the machine. You download it from Xtool's website. Additionally, on the software, LaserBox Basic is designed to get you up and running quick, and it may suit all of your requirements, but if you are looking for more professional software, the Xtool D1 is compatible with Lightburn. Now that is a paid software. I think it runs around 60 bucks, but it's well worth it if you need some more advanced features than the LaserBox Basic can give you. So we've got a lot of ground to cover in a very short time without making this video too long, but if you do stick around to the end, I'm going to show you a montage of some projects that I've completed in the few short weeks I've had this machine. I should also mention that Xtool did send me the RA2. This is their new rotary attachment. It has some very unique and advanced features, and this is going to be a video all by itself because, well, we don't want to make this video too long, but needless to say, stay tuned to my channel if you want to see the review on the rotary attachment. The overall build quality and construction is excellent. Xtool does something a little different. They use proprietary aluminum extrusions for the frame that are designed just for this purpose. These are not off-the-shelf components that you can buy and everything screws together like a kit form. This stuff is made specifically for this machine. The rigidity is just incredible. When you screw this thing together, this thing becomes one rigid unit that is quite easy to pick up and move around. It's very portable. At the same time, it's also extremely rigid. It's square. Once you screw this up, it's square right out of the box. You don't have to fiddle with that. And if you pick it up and move it and put it back down, you can be sure everything's staying nice and square. So the mechanical drivetrain is also very well thought out. They use steel, polished steel guide rails and steel roller bearings for the gantry movement. The synchronous belts are tucked away into these extrusions, so they're out of harm's way. I think that's very professional. I like the way they did that. Another nice feature that Xtool thought out is their method for adjusting the focus. So it's a two-step process. There's a little set screw over here on the side that you lift up, and then the laser module slides up and down, and there's a little provided kickstand over here that you drop down. Now this kickstand sticks down below this guard on the laser. So you slide this down, touch it off to your material, tighten the set screw, and lift this little kickstand back up. Now your laser is in focus. So I've only found one drawback with the build quality so far, and that is cable management. It's not so much of a problem with the X-axis here because you can cable tie this cable to the gantry and it'll stay secure and up out of the way. However, over on this side we have a loose cable, and apparently it was designed this way, and it could be an issue if you let this cable come inside. You could hit it with the laser module and possibly damage the cable. That wouldn't be good, but keep this on the outside right here, keep it free of any obstructions, and you should be just fine. I would like to see Xtool make a drag chain for this, especially at the price point that this laser is at. I think that would be a feature they should incorporate. So let's talk about the specifications. So as of this time, Xtool is selling two different machines of the D1. There's the 5-watt version and the 10-watt version. Xtool sent me the 10-watt version for review. Okay, now the laser itself is actually comprised of two 5-watt diode lasers internally here. They're combined with a mirror and compressed somehow. It's a new technology, and they're combined into one beam for 10 watts of cutting power. So that's pretty cool. Another nice feature is that the laser dot itself is 0.08 millimeters by 0.08 millimeters. That is like 3/1000ths of an inch. So that means you can get super precise lines in very high resolution raster engraved images. So the working area of the machine is 432 millimeters in the x-axis, that's 17 inches, or 406 millimeters in the y-axis, that's 16 inches. So that is a pretty big workable area. I don't see a need for anything bigger than that, although I believe Xtool is just released an accessory for this machine where you can double your y-axis by replacing these two rails, and I think that accessory kit is about 160 bucks. So that's nice to know as well. Xtool advertises the cutting speed as 10,000 millimeters per minute. Okay, that breaks down to 166 millimeters per second. That is pretty quick. So to put that in perspective, okay, when you're cutting something like wood or acrylics, you could be running 5 millimeters per second or slower, right? And as far as engraving, the fastest I've moved engraving so far has been 100 millimeters per second. So it's nice to know that this thing is capable of doing such a high speed. Don't know if I'll ever personally use it, but it's there. So the materials that you can cut and engrave with this it's very comprehensive, right? I can't go over the full list, but let's just say that the most common ones are you can cut and engrave wood, you can cut and engrave acrylics as long as they're opaque. A diode laser just cannot cut clear acrylics. And I've actually had some trouble trying to cut white acrylic as well. So black acrylic, very successful with, both cutting and engraving. Other materials you can cut include cardboard, craft foam. Just make sure it's not a PVC craft foam. Any laser that cuts PVC and certain other plastics, it can release hazardous fumes. You don't want to do that. So you can actually just go online and check to see what range of plastics you can cut, but acrylic is generally considered safe. A material you can both cut and engrave is leather. Engraving, I've had a large amount of success with, particularly with veg tan leathers. I've also engraved what they call chrome tan leathers. However, the results aren't as good as veg tan, so I'm just going to stick with veg tan here on out. Cutting, as far as leather goes, is a little tricky. You can get a lot of charring around the edges, and in some instances that might not be desirable, but just be aware that you can actually cut leather as well as engrave it. So Xtool also advertises that this machine can cut up to 3/8 of an inch or 10 millimeters of basswood plywood. That's pretty thick, and although it operates very slow and takes a large amount of passes to do it, it's nice to know that it can. Personally, I've only cut 1/4 inch birch maple plywood with very good success. It takes about 4 passes. I've also cut 1/8 inch solid walnut with 2 passes. That worked really, really well. I've also cut up to 1/4 inch thick black acrylic. So that's very important to me. I do work with a lot of plastics. So if you're interested in higher capabilities of cutting, then I have to say a diode laser probably isn't for you. You might want to look at a CO2 laser. Those things start at 40 watts and up. And the nature of a CO2 laser actually operates differently than a diode laser, and you can cut materials like clear acrylic. So keep that in mind, when you're considering the Xtool D1. There are limitations to diode lasers. Additionally, there are some materials that you can engrave or etch, but you usually need to apply a coating prior to engraving them. And those include ceramic tile, glass. Stainless steel you can actually mark without any kind of a coating on it, but that is the only metal that you can actually mark. To engrave stainless steel, you go rather slow and you use full power, but it actually does work very well. You can see in the end when I show you some projects just how well it worked for me. 2 things I should mention before we get onto the software. First, the Xtool operates in metric, particularly millimeters. So everything that's in the software, when you see the size of it, it is in millimeters. So A little bit of a drawback to us here in the US, we're used to working with imperial, inches, but it's not that bad, especially if you have a calculator that can quickly do the conversions for you. But just be aware of that. It operates in metric. So the second thing is that this machine doesn't have limit switches, okay? And that basically means that it doesn't know its own boundaries. It's gonna move where you tell it to move in the software, okay? And it uses this crosshair as an origin point, okay? So what you have to do is you have to match this crosshair origin on your material here with the origin in the software, and everything works real good. It's generally not a problem because, like, if you set a piece of material in here, and let's say this is 9 inches by 12 inches, and we're gonna engrave this surface, I pretty much is gonna move this over and start in the corner, okay? And then when I'm in the software and I have a preview screen, which you'll see shortly, I get to select where I want that origin to start from in the software. So I would just pick this upper left-hand corner as well, and then the machine will move everything relative from this starting position here. It'll cut or engrave. Now, that being said, if you do something, like you make a mistake and you position your material here and you position the cross here, yet in the software, you select the center origin point, or maybe this corner or this corner, the software is going to try and move that as if you have the material here. And this is going to move over and crash your machine, right? I've done it several times. It's an easy mistake to make, but you catch on pretty quick. So just understand that this works everything off of this crosshair as an origin, and that is also tied in with the software. So let me show you how easy it is to run a small job here in the LaserBox Basic. So I've already downloaded and installed the LaserBox Basic software, obviously, and I've launched it. So the first thing I want to do is import the project I want to do. We go to Menu, Import, and you navigate to wherever your file is. In this case, here's one that I've already drawn. We're going to use for this demo. It is a wrench. Okay, so now the object is coming. You can see it's quite small, and that has to do with the fact that it was drawn in AutoCAD in inches. So when it brings it into this software, it converts inches to millimeters. So that's why it's quite small. What we're going to do is we're going to select the item. We're going to come over here. We're going to lock the scaling, and I'm going to just, for these purposes right now, I'm going to make it 100 millimeters wide. And there's our wrench. Now this is something that I don't need, so I'm going to cut that out. Now I'm going to, again, move this object here so it's a little more visible. Okay, now you notice when I click on this item, I have a boundary box. That boundary box is like the framing that you're going to see a little bit later on. That's the extent size, and that is also going to be the framing box that we preview on the material. So this is telling me that it's 64.6 millimeters wide and 18.2 millimeters high. That is, let's make it a little bit bigger. Let's lock this again to maintain the aspect ratio, and let's make this 100 millimeters there. So you have control over the size of an object. You can also, if you want, you can grab the corners and you can scale it and stretch it any way you like, right? But we're gonna be good with this. So now I'm gonna select an object. We're gonna add some text here on the wrench. So we're gonna come up here to Insert, and we're gonna select Text. And I'm gonna click here, and I got a text object. Now I'm going to double click this. That's how you edit text, by double clicking on it. And I'm going to wipe this out and insert our own wrench. Okay, and I'm going to scale this down a little bit, and I'm going to do that just by showing you the stretch box right here. That looks like good. So we're going to move this here. You can see that's centered. All right. We are ready to cut this out and engrave it. Now, first thing we're going to do is we're going to set up the cutting parameters. So we're going to select the outline that we wish to cut. There you go. Now we're going to come up here to cut, and you notice the wrench outline turned purple, and this cut menu is all colored purple. They do that just so you don't confuse engraving and cutting. All right, we're not going to use the defaults because we're going to cut this out of a piece of 1/8 inch black acrylic, and my settings for 1/8 black acrylic are 80% power and 3 millimeters per second and 2 passes. There we go. We've now set the parameters for the cutting. Now let's do it for the engraving. All right, so we select the wrench, and you can see we can only actually engrave that because it's filled text, and the default is 50% power, 50 millimeters per second. I like to engrave the black acrylic a little bit stronger power and substantially faster, 100 millimeters per second, and we're only going to do 1 pass. So there you go. We're now set up and ready to run this file. First thing we need to do is turn on the laser. I've had that off because the fan's a little bit noisy. All right, you can see up here, this is how we connect the machine to the computer. I'm currently running with a USB cable right from my laptop to the machine. So I'm on the serial port, and I'm going to select laser box. However, if you wanted to use Wi-Fi, you configure that, set your Wi-Fi up, and this would be what I would select for the Wi-Fi. To be fair though, I'm having problems with my Wi-Fi. It's not Xtool's fault. I have an issue with my router, so I'm currently sticking with the laser box, the serial USB port. So we select that, now we should be connected. So once we're connected, we're ready to run. So we hit this little play button up here, and that'll take us to the preview screen where we do the framing. Now you may remember us talking about the crosshairs of the laser. This blue dot represents the crosshairs on the laser module itself. So I can either leave it in this default corner, and I would just have to position that crosshairs on the material appropriately, but I'm actually going to move it to the center. I like to work my origins off the center mostly, because usually I'm trying to center an object up on a piece of material, you know, so this works for me. You may notice up here that you can select between rotary and flat. Rotary is obviously for a rotary attachment, which we're not doing. We're flat engraving. So now let's check our framing. Okay, that's all good, and now we basically run the file. If you made it this far, thank you for your patience. It's been a rather long video, I know, but we had a lot of ground to cover. And hopefully by now, you have a good understanding how the Xtool D1 operates and just how easy it is to get up and running with software and get your first project under your belt in just a couple of hours. All right, quick word on laser safety, right? If you ever decide to buy a laser, wherever you get it from, they're always going to provide you with a pair of these safety glasses. Just do yourself a favor, wear them while you're operating that laser. You only have 2 eyes, and you don't want to damage your eyesight, so wear these goggles. The second thing is that, you know, lasers obviously operate at high temperatures, and we're usually dealing with combustible materials, so keep a fire extinguisher handy, or at the very least, a small spray bottle of water so that you can extinguish any potential flare-ups you may have. That's a good idea. Also, ventilation. Now, you can see I'm in an open shop right here, and I usually run this with the doors and windows open. But if you're in an enclosed space, make sure you have adequate ventilation, because wood at the very least gives you smoke, which stinks and is not good for you. But you know, if you're cutting some other materials, there could be some somewhat hazardous fumes. So be mindful of that. All right, and lastly, before the photo montage, hopefully you stick around and see the projects. I'd like to say that if you're interested in the Xtool, check down in the description box. There'll be a link to Xtool's website. I think the price currently for the Xtool, the D1 unit itself is $649. And if you buy the Xtool in the rotary attachment as a package, it is $921. Now, that is rather expensive, but it's a high quality tool and they give you the software to get up and running. You know, I think it's money well spent if you have a use for it. Can you get a cheaper laser? Yeah, absolutely. There's quite a few models out there that you can get for $200, $300. Are they going to be the same quality as the Xtool? You know, I don't think so. Your mileage may vary. You check it out yourself, do your own research. Thanks for sticking around. If you have any questions or comments, you know, hit me up in the comments section down below. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. Thanks for watching. See you on the next video.
Tell me what's wrong and why you never said you felt that way. Guess you're trying to stay strong and fake a smile until I